Student Success Committee, as we are called to order today. Thank you everyone for joining. We are a sparse crowd. I will be temporarily chairing this meeting due to Commissioner Winton's resignation from THEC. She has joined the TSU board. And we have a quorum with myself and I think with Commissioner Allman, but I do think we have to do a roll call. So if you wouldn't mind, Secretary.
Commissioner Allman?
Present.
Commissioner Scarlett?
Present.
Secretary Hargett? Commissioner Morrison?
Present.
You have 3 members present and 2 voting members present and a quorum.
All right. I know that we will be moving forward tomorrow and having some conversations about increasing the number of participants in this committee so we have a more robust conversation. We do have a statement of necessity. Since we do not have an in-person quorum, we must adopt that statement and to meet it electronically. Would you mind reading that?
Committee members. A quorum of members are participating electronically today. As such, Tennessee Code annotated 844-108B2 requires that the committee make a determination that a necessity exists in order for a quorum of members to participate by electronic or other means of communication. A necessity means that the matters to be considered by a public body at a meeting require timely action by the body, that physical presence by a quorum of the members is not practical within the period of time requiring action, and that participation by a quorum of the members by electronic or other means of communication is necessary. In this case, 2 facts support a determination of necessity. First, today's agenda items require timely action by this committee to meet the Commission's charge to develop a recommendation for the agenda items to be considered by the full Commission on August 15th, 2024. Second, scheduling conflicts and other commitments prevented a quorum of members from being physically present today.
I will go ahead and move that we determine this necessity exists. I'm looking for a second.
Second.
Excellent. Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
Commissioner Allman?
Aye.
Commissioner Scarlett?
Aye.
Chairwoman, you have 2 ayes.
Okay, we'll pass that. The adoption of the agenda. So next, we will entertain a motion, and I'll ask for Commissioner Allman to do this. Entertain a motion and a second to adopt the agenda for today's meeting.
So moved.
I will second that. And since we have no objections between the 2 of us, we'll entertain a roll call vote. Madam Secretary.
Commissioner Allman?
Aye.
Commissioner Scarlett?
Aye.
You have 2 ayes.
Great. We recognize the motion carries. The next item is public comment. Dr. Gentile, do we have any? Oh,
We do not. No.
okay. Well, thank you very much. We're moving very swiftly through this agenda. The next is the approval of the minutes. I do have a proposal for one correction. Chairwoman Winton was not in attendance at that meeting, and I believe I stepped in to chair that as a temporary chairperson. So that would be my only correction. To the minutes, with no additional questions, I will move to adopt the minutes, and I'll look for a second.
Second.
Madam Secretary?
Commissioner Allman?
Aye.
Commissioner Scarlett?
Aye.
You have 2 ayes.
All right, motion carries again. So the next up, we have on our regular calendar, we have the post-secondary education authorization. There's 2 parts to this agenda item. Without any objection, I'd like to vote on those as a set. Dr. Bellard Chase, Senior Director of Post-Secondary State Authorization, will provide an overview of the post-secondary education authorization and answer any questions. Dr. Bellard Chase, you are recognized.
Good morning, Chairman Scarlett, Dr. Gentile, members of the committee. The items in CC1A and CC1B in your binder, the recommendation is that they be granted regular and OEA authorization respectively.
I don't have any questions. Commissioner Allman, do you have any questions?
I do not.
Okay, I will go ahead and move to approve this item. Looking for a second.
Second.
Okay, without any objection, Madam Secretary.
Commissioner Allman?
Aye.
Commissioner Scarlett?
Aye.
Chairwoman, you have 2 ayes.
All right. Thank you.
Okay.
So,
For my informational item this morning, I would like to do an overview of DPSA, the institutions that we authorize, and the process that we go through to authorize them. So pursuant to the Tennessee Higher Education Authorization Act of 2016, the Tennessee Higher Education Commission is directly responsible for the oversight and operation of degree and non-degree granting, accredited and unaccredited institutions that offer a wide variety of academic, career, technical, and trade programs. For example, we offer everything from truck driving up to PhDs and anything in between that you can think about. Authorization versus accreditation. Oftentimes people intermingle these words, but authorization is minimum standards. It is supported by the statute. It's for a specified time, and institutions are encouraged not to use the word authorization. So, accreditation, I'm sorry. Authorization is minimum standards, which I will go through later. And authorization is necessary to operate legally in the state of Tennessee. So unless you're exempt, if you offer post-secondary educational training in Tennessee, you have to be authorized. And then accreditation is non-governmental peer evaluation of post-secondary educational institutions and programs by private educational associations that have adopted criteria for educational programs and develop procedures. These criteria determine whether or not institutions or programs are operating at a basic level of quality. So accreditation is voluntary. Generally, you have to be authorized for at least 1 to 2 years before you can start the accreditation process. And the commission only recognizes accreditors that are recognized by the U.S. Department of Education. I'm sorry, are there any questions at this point?
Can you give an example of an exempt entity?
So all of the LGIs are exempt by statute. The TCATs, all TBR institutions are exempt by statutes, and THEC institutions. So basically, if you've been authorized for 20 years and not-for-profit for 20 years and operating in the state for 20 years, for the THEC institutions, you're exempt. The publics are exempt by name.
All right, great, thank you.
So the initial authorization process, I generally get up here and I say regular authorization and OEA. So regular authorization, these institutions do not have to be accredited. Generally, they have their sole proprietorships, although we do have some accredited institutions that are regularly authorized. So basically, the process is they have to attend the initial authorization training. We have trainings 4 times a year, and the purpose of that training is to help them fill out the application in a more efficient manner, let them know what to expect, and so that we can figure out the types of institutions that we'll be getting. After they attend the initial authorization training, they can submit the application. They have to submit the application within 1 year of attending the training. If the application comes in and it's incomplete, for instance, they don't have a surety bond, then we send them an email and say your application is incomplete. You have 30 days to make it complete. If they do not, within that 30 days, submit what is missing, then the application is withdrawn, but the institution may reapply. Once we receive a completed institution, they have to meet the minimum standards for authorization. So a brief example of some of the minimum standards: the institutional director, who is responsible for making sure that the institution is following all the rules and statutes that are applicable, they have minimum educational qualifications. The instructors have minimum qualifications that we do verify. We verify institutional ownership. They have to have facilities. So they have to have a lease for at least 1 year from the date of application, or show proof of ownership of the building where the training will be taking place. If they operate in another state, they need to supply to us their letter of authorization from that state or their exemption, so we make sure they're operating legally at home as well as here. They have to have an institutional surety bond, evidence of a business account, pre-enrollment disclosures. So all students have to sign a transferability of credit disclosure, and basically what it says, and it has to be in 16-point font, it's in the statute. What it says is that I understand that by going to this school, my credits may not transfer to another institution. So before I enroll, I'm going to go check with those institutions to make sure they'll take my credits if I intend to further my education when I leave this institution. They also have to do a pre-enrollment checklist, and that's where they get a tour of the institution, whether in person or virtually. They get a copy of the catalog, the student handbook, etc. And then the enrollment agreement, which has the refund policy on there. It tells them the terms of how long they'll be enrolled, what program they're enrolled in, excuse me, how long that program will be, etc. Additionally, all institutions have to have a catalog. Within that catalog, there has to be a complaint policy, a refund policy, and academic progress policy. And then lastly, all institutions must submit at least one program registration request. And one important thing about programs that we do is that we work in concert with subject matter experts. So a lot of times on the agenda, you'll see is licensure required for this position? We'll say yes. And then we put the state board that does it. So any nursing schools, dental schools, massage schools, etc., before we approve them and bring them to you, we have a letter from the subject matter expert saying when those students finish those programs, they can be licensed. Okay,
Wonderful.
Sorry.
No, I was just going to say thank you for sharing that information with us. I didn't realize all the requirements there, and I appreciate you sharing that. I know tomorrow this is a consent calendar item, correct? Yes. Looking here at the new agenda, but is this something that we could share, just a brief bit of information with everyone as far as the process of the in order to authorize new institutions and programs?
I think that's a great idea.
What do you think?
I think it's a great idea. I think there'd be a lot of value for
Because
especially for new commissioners.
I think so too. And I didn't realize all that goes into this. Of course, it should have a lot of different measures, but I think that might be good to kind of give a brief overview. That's just my opinion. Again, I know it's a consent calendar item, I believe, but I think that might be nice to share.
Okay. So once the institution meets the minimum standards for the application, after that, we go through the application and we give them a detailed list of everything that does not meet the minimum standards. We send it to them. They have 10 business days to make the corrections. We get it back. We review it again. In most instances, they get a second letter. We get it back. Once we review it the second time, if they still do not meet the minimum standards, then their application is withdrawn. It's denied. If they do, then the next step is a successful site visit. So we actually go, anything that's out of state we do virtually, but in state we go to the institution. We have a list of equipment that is supposed to be there. They've told us how many square feet it is, so we go in and do an inspection. And we make sure, especially heavy equipment programs like trucking, HVAC, et cetera, that all the equipment is there and operable. After the successful authorization site visit, then I make a recommendation to Stephen that he put them on provisional authorization. Once they receive provisional authorization, they are able to operate as a post-secondary educational institution in Tennessee. And then the commission has to ratify that decision. Once it's ratified by the commission, then they are regularly authorized. The last thing that they are required to do is after they are authorized, they have to attend the post-initial authorization training. So the first training is to help them fill out the application, know what to expect. The second training goes over the rules and statutes that they must follow as authorized institutions. And that's the process for regular. So now, OEA got added in 2016 with the Post-Secondary Educational Authorization Act of 2016. And for this option, you have to be accredited. You have to be accredited and meet certain financial standards. So because regularly authorized institutions, many of them are not accredited, they're smaller. These institutions have been operating for a long time, they're accredited. And so we rely more on the accreditor for their process. We don't do site visits. However, there are minimum standards that they have to meet also. First of all, of course, they have to give us proof of accreditation. Financially, they have to meet their accreditor standards. We look at their federal financial responsibility composite score. If it's less than 1.5, then we ask questions. And we see whether or not they are on heightened cash monitoring with the feds. And if so, we make sure they have their letter of credit, et cetera. They also have to produce a license or authorization to operate in their home state if they're from someone else. They have to have an institutional surety bond. And again, any program that leads to licensure, they also have to submit their subject matter expert verification. And then on their website, they have to have their cost of attendance, transfer of credit statement, any articulation agreements they have with institutions in Tennessee, and their most recent student cohort default rates. Also, one additional thing, they have to have a section for Tennessee students letting them know that if they have a complaint that has not been handled at the institutional level, that then they can come to THEC for that complaint. And that concludes the OEA section. Any questions?
I do have several questions. Commissioner Allman, do you have any questions?
I do not. Thank you for that information.
You mentioned complaints a couple times. How many complaints do these organizations get, and or how many complaints get escalated to THEC?
Right, so there is an attorney handles the complaints for us now, but I believe so far it was like 90. We get involved. If it needs a site visit, we'll go. We do the site visit, but I know when I was handling them myself, there was quite a few. Sometimes it's grade disputes. Sometimes they didn't treat me fair or whatever. And that's why when we have them do their policies, we try to press in them to not make them subjective and look at fair consumer practices.
Okay.
But yes, that is a process, and all students who go to authorized institutions have that as a backup if it's not handled at the institution.
Okay. How many, and you may or may not have this information, I know we've reviewed a lot of these in the consent agendas since I've been here. How many have we authorized across the state?
My next slide.
Oh,
If you
yeah.
don't mind. Okay. So currently, there are 266 institutions that are authorized. 199 of them are regularly authorized. Of those, 56 are accredited, 143 are unaccredited, 149 are for-profit, and 50 are not-for-profit. Many times people think our sector is all for-profit, but we do have some not-for-profit institutions that operate that are not exempt, and so they have to come under us. As far as optional expedited, there's 67 as of July 1st. Of course, all of them are accredited, 39 are for-profit, and 28 are not-for-profit. For the regularly authorized institutions, they offered approximately 700 programs, and for the OEA, it's 2,800. And the RA and OEA institutions enrolled approximately 61,000 students in fiscal year 2023.
If I may, for clarification, you said not-for-profit or government, just as reminders, it's only TECUA institutions that are exempt, that are nonprofit. Is that correct?
Well, it used to be. Now it's, so any not-for-profit that is domiciled in the state
Right.
for 20 years and accredited for 20 years is exempt. Right now, TECUA are the only institutions I'm aware of that meet that exemption.
Gotcha. And also, as a good reminder to everyone, there are public institutions that seek to operate here that are not Tennessee. That falls into this as well, correct?
Yes, we have Troy University, for instance, the University of Nevada. Those are two that come to my head right away. Because once they create a physical presence in Tennessee, they have to either be working under the SARA, which is the reciprocity agreement, but once they get a physical location, then they have to be authorized by us.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. So this is just some data about the students that go to our institutions. If you see that enrollment by age, most of the students are non-traditional. 67% are over the age of 25, and 33% are under the age of 25. As far as enrollment by authorization type and accreditation, so regularly authorized institutions that have no accreditation account for 27% of the enrollment. Regular authorized institutions with accreditation count for 14%, and then OEA is the rest with 59%. This is by gender. There's more females than males. 47% Caucasian students, 37% African American, 5% Hispanic. And this is just a snapshot for fiscal year '23 of the credentials that were awarded by the institutions that are authorized. So what no credential means is we have some institutions that come here and they want to set up a summer program, and the students get credit hours, but they don't actually get a certificate, but they still have to be under us because they're instructing and giving out educational credits. So, any questions?
I do have a couple more questions. One has to do with results and outcomes. Do we track that sort of information? Do we know how many people are, I know you're talking about getting the degrees here, do we know if they're going into the high growth areas that we need to fill the jobs, or do we have any information? Like
So what we do every year, we collect something that we call student level statistical data. And that's every institution and every program, and they report to us how many students were enrolled, how many withdrew, how many are still enrolled, how many completed, and how many got a job. So yes, ma'am. And there's reports on the website of every institution which you can click on there and it'll show you their report, their withdrawal rate, their placement rate, etc.
I guess look at this from a macro level, from what THEC is reporting, if we're talking about all credentials that are achieved, and are they leaning into the high growth fields that we need to
I
protect?
think
can't
the,
hear.
oh, you can't hear. I'm sorry, Stephanie.
No, I said I'm sorry, I couldn't hear her question.
Well, if I could just clarify, we get for the institutions aggregate level data, not the student level data.
No, we
So
get student
You
level.
get student level
We
data.
used to get aggregate, but then they changed the law that we had to put the reports on the website, so we wanted to be responsible for the integrity of the data.
Okay, but that data does not flow into our P20 system. Is that correct?
At one point, I don't think so.
It does, yeah.
But I know there's a section on us in the fact book about the head count. Yes.
Right. So it does not at this time plug into the system that would allow us to see where they're going into those high need fields, high need industries, I should say, as we can't track which exact positions they go into. So that's right now that is a limitation of what we can do with the data.
Is that something we could explore? Because we look at 60,000 people that are enrolled. Smaller
It's actually a
numbers
topic
obviously
of
completing.
conversation just last week as
Yeah,
well.
okay,
So,
perfect. I have one more question in regards to, you talked about the credits that students will receive from some of these organizations. They may or may not transfer to whatever other institution they choose to go to. And I know we've talked a lot about transfer credits before. Has there been any conversation about how to make that more of a seamless experience for students between these organizations and our Tennessee-based post-secondary institutions?
No, ma'am, not that I'm aware of. But like I said, we do, if an OEA institution has an articulation agreement with a institution in Tennessee, that does need to be on their website. And then students, every institution, I mean, even the publics have to have a statement based on SAC COC saying that the acceptance of credits is up to the accepting institution. So, but there's no formal agreement, no.
Thank you.
That it? Okay, thank you.
I've got
Thank
some
you.
more questions actually, but I came real quick. Stephanie, wait 1 second, please. I love this, and because I think that too often in our conversations about what THEC does, this does not get nearly enough spotlight, given what the enrollment is, the credentials are, and how those institutions are serving the state. When did the Division of Post-Secondary Authorization join under the commission? Do you remember?
From my understanding, it was in the 80s.
Okay.
It used to be a separate board, and then it was in the 80s it got put under THEC.
Okay, and when there was a board up until recently, that was an advisory, is that correct?
Yes, it was a post-secondary educational advisory committee, which had been there around for at least 30 years, I believe, when I
Okay.
started. Yes, sir.
I'm really glad that we had this conversation. We'll have one at the finance committee this afternoon as well, looking at the finances of this operation. The questions that you asked, Chairwoman and Whitney as well, Commissioner Allman, just highlights how we can do better about morphing this conversation into the general policy direction of the state as well. The work that she and her team does goes unheralded in what they're doing and how they're traveling around the state and making sure that the education is good and strong. And we can do a better job as an agency connecting to the broader picture as well.
While I have you up there, one more question or comment, and this ties back to the demographics you were sharing. I think you shared that almost 67% are female, and there's, okay, 66%. Um,
And an overwhelming number are non-traditional, over 25 also. Yes, ma'am.
As we think about advising, as we think about helping encourage more students to consider what's next, we really have to increase the number of males that are getting involved in post-secondary. And I think we all recognize this as a national trend. This is not a Tennessee trend. As you think about that from advising, I know we'll have further conversations, but how do we encourage, motivate, inspire both male and female of all ages and demographic backgrounds to consider whether it's these programs or other programs we have in the state? I think this is continuing to be a bit of a shock and will continue to affect our society at a broader level. So just perspective.
Yes,
Commissioner
ma'am.
Allman, any other questions for Dr. Bellard Chase?
I do not. Thank you again. Wonderful
All right.
presentation.
Thank you so much. All right, so next up on the agenda is the new academic program, Roane State Community College, the Nuclear Technology Associate of Applied Science. Dr. Catherine Brackett, hello. Senior Director of Academic Affairs, will provide an overview of the program and introduce the speakers from the institutions. Dr. Brackett.
Good morning, Chairwoman Scarlett and Commissioners. We have one program for your consideration today, a Nuclear Technology Associate of Applied Science at Roane State Community College. This program has significant industry involvement and support and has also garnered substantial grant funding from industry and federal and state entities. I'm pleased to introduce 3 presenters from the Tennessee Board of Regents to share more information about the proposed program. Dr. Jothany Reed, Vice Chancellor for Academic Affairs, Ms. Alicia Fox, Vice Chancellor for Business and Finance, and Dr. Chris Whaley, President of Roane State Community College.
Good morning, members of the commission. So glad to host you here at TBR. I'm happy to present Roane State's Community College's new program that's being proposed in nuclear technology for an AAS to meet the workforce needs within the Oak Ridge and surrounding areas for technician level education, and will encompass the entire fuel cycle, including technicians in nuclear fabrication, research, decontamination, decommissioning fields. The proposed curriculum will consist of 63 credit hours of coursework offered on ground at the Oak Ridge campus. The curriculum includes 26 credit hours of general education courses, 33 credit hours in the major field core in nuclear technology, and 4 to 6 credit hours of college requirements, including Roane State's first year course and an internship with variable hours. There are 4 new courses that have been developed for this program and is being proposed for a fall 2024 start. Other unique features of this program include dual enrollment options. The college has also worked with the University of Tennessee Knoxville's nuclear engineering faculty on the curriculum development of this program, and they are working on a future articulation agreement from Roane State to UTK. The college will also seek accreditation in 2028 from the Association of Technology, Management, and Applied Engineering. Although this program will be hosted within the Oak Ridge area, it is intended to serve their 8 county area service area, providing access to a variety of nuclear technician and nuclear worker placements and job opportunities to the region. They have incredible industry support for this program. Roane State was approached by an independent advisory board to develop a 2-year associates of applied science in nuclear technology. The Nuclear Technology Advisory Board is currently in effect and is predominantly made up of major industries in the nuclear field surrounding the Oak Ridge, Tennessee area. The industry served Roane State's effort for the program in both an advisory capacity as well as a collaborative partner by providing subject matter expertise in the curriculum development. The industry partners associated with this program include Oak Ridge National Laboratory, the Y-12 National Security Complex, the United Cleanup Oak Ridge, Omega Technical Services, Trezo X, MS Technologies, Energy Solution, RBM Services, and GEM Technologies. The proximity of this campus to the nuclear industry will allow the college to continue to work very closely with its industry partners who have all agreed to support this program with the use of laboratory space and equipment as needed. Also, they're all supporting plans for internships and apprenticeships. The workforce demand is significant. According to the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics, projected growth from 2020 to 2030 for engineering technologists and technicians in Tennessee is expected to grow by 13%, which is an average of about 160 jobs annually. Also, according to recent 2023 BLS data, the median wage for nuclear technicians coming out of this program is right over $90,000. And the Nuclear Energy Institute also projects that increased demand in nuclear energy will remain high due to retirements, changes in the industry, and expansion of facilities, mostly within the East Tennessee region. The East Tennessee Economic Council also supports this and has identified nuclear technicians as one of the critical workforce needs for the East Tennessee region. Finally, Governor Lee's $50 million nuclear fund to continue work to make Tennessee the #1 state for nuclear energy companies to invest in and thrive also directly influence the development of this program, which is designed to create that workforce for those companies I've mentioned. In terms of alignment to the THEC State Master Plan for Higher Education, it supports that by addressing the 3 areas of student success, family prosperity, and the workforce. This proposed program provides students with those high quality and relevant career-focused credentials. It also aligns with the vision and mission of Rome State Community College by investing in students the skills and knowledge to be among the best prepared graduates in this program. And also, graduates of this program will strengthen that regional workforce by having a clear career path to lead to greater economic mobility. It also supports the state's economic and workforce development by ensuring these trained skilled workers that will increase degree completion to support higher education in the state. It also aligns the TBR strategic plan and our commitment to improve the condition of individuals, families, and communities through the state through economic mobility and vitality. It also supports Rome State's community colleges' own opportunities to support its service areas to access an educational program that will be developed with new programs in collaborations with business and industry. At this time, I will be joined by Vice Chancellor Alicia Fox, who will highlight the revenue and cost projections. She will then be followed with closing comments from President Whaley, and then we will all help with questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Reed, and good morning, Commission members. I'm happy to provide an overview of the enrollment, revenue, and expense projections for this program. These program reviews are conducted by a committee of individuals within the Academic Data and Finance Offices at TBR in partnership with the academic team at THEC and include multiple stages of review. The AAS in nuclear technology will be funded in part through grant funds and in part through tuition revenue. This chart shows revenue and expense estimates as well as enrollment and completion projections for years 1 through 3. Reading this chart from left to right by year and top to bottom, expense, revenue, and then enrollment, you will see the initial planning or startup cost is estimated at $426,189. Of that, $367,200 is one-time or non-recurring cost, and $94,989 is recurring. The non-recurring costs include specialized equipment such as glove boxes, robots, and radiation spectrography equipment, along with some minor facilities upgrades. The recurring costs include one full-time program director who also teaches, one adjunct instructor, and then general consumable supplies for the program. You will also note that in the planning stage, the revenue is $612,000 made up from industry partner donations, a Department of Labor grant, and funds from the State of Tennessee Nuclear Energy Fund. Looking forward to years 1 through 3, the recurring costs include the personnel mentioned earlier, as well as minimal consumable operating and travel budgets to cover accreditation required travel. You will also note non-recurring costs for equipment in years 1 through 3. These drop off in year 4. As you may be aware, the enrollment projections drive the tuition revenue projections, and you probably noticed the loss in years 1 through 3. In the full THEC financial presentation submitted with the proposal, Roane State projects out through year 5, with years 4 and 5 showing a positive bottom line once the non-recurring equipment drops off. This leads me to the enrollment projections. You will see the year 1 projection at 15 FTE and increasing in years 2 and 3 to 45 and 62.5 respectively, with the projected graduation numbers at 5 in year 2 and 10 in year 3. The included enrollment and graduation projections are based on enrollment in similar programs within the state of Tennessee, including a similar program at Roane State, a program offered at Chattanooga State and the University of Tennessee, Knoxville. Roane State currently offers a chemical engineering tech program that is similar in nature to the new nuclear technology program you are considering today. The chemical engineering program at Roane State began with 15 students and has grown to a steady enrollment of 50 to 60 new students each year and a 90% graduation rate. Chattanooga State currently offers an engineering technology degree with a concentration in nuclear power for an average enrollment of 11 headcount. UTK offers a bachelor's degree in nuclear engineering with enrollment slightly above 200. Given the proximity to UTK and the partnership between the two institutions, as well as the potential for articulation, Roane State feels that this is a more accurate comparison of the potential of this program. At this time, that concludes my portion of the presentation, and I would like to turn it over to Dr. Whaley for closing comments, and then we'll be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Good morning, Madam Chair, Executive Director Gentile, members of the Commission. Thank you for your time this morning. Thank you for your consideration of this program that we're very, very excited about. I'd like to thank Vice Chancellor Reed, Fox, and Deaton for their support and advocacy of this program. We think this is exactly how our role in academics ought to work. When business and industry come to us with a need, an existing need, a growing need, a need with even more potential in the future, and they ask us to help them fill it. It's quite another thing, in a positive sense, when they surround us and say, we feel so strongly about this, we're going to help you build the curriculum, we're going to help you fundraise for equipment, we're going to help you apply for grant dollars. All of those things are very, very true in this situation. I don't have to tell any of you about the ties Oak Ridge, Tennessee has to nuclear energy. With the increasing switch from coal and other fossil fuels to clean energies such as nuclear, the future for nuclear in Oak Ridge and the greater East Tennessee area has never been greater. The phrase often used in the Oak Ridge area is that there is a nuclear renaissance going on. Now, what I mean by that is that there are already any number of industries, governmental agencies, etc., who have need of technicians for their programs, for their employees to take part in. Some 200, 220 industries already exist who need nuclear technicians. They need, obviously, the great nuclear engineers coming out of UT, the great nuclear engineers who are going to come out of Tennessee Tech's new program, but they need technician-level folks as well, and that's what we hope to provide. Not only to Y-12, to the uranium processing facility, to the NNSA, the National Nuclear Security Administration, all of those that already exist that need folks that this program would produce if approved, but also all those things that are coming. You may have heard or read about the small modular nuclear reactor that is going to be built at the Clinch River site. There are many other announcements, things that we can't really talk about now that are coming, fingers crossed, of industries that hopefully will locate in the Oak Ridge area and continue not only the growth of nuclear industry from the fission side, but also looking to the future. Just last week at the East Tennessee Economic Council, we had a presenter from a company locating in Oak Ridge that's going to move over and look at what probably is the future of nuclear energy, and that is fusion, which is now just being developed and perfected, certainly with the help of the great folks at Oak Ridge National Laboratory. But this is an existing need. This is a need that will not only continue, but frankly will grow. And that's what the local leaders saw, and that's what they perceived when they came to Roane State many months ago and asked us to develop this program. The team of Roane State folks behind me, Dr. Ward, Dr. Esquivel, Dr. Malikpour, immediately began to work on this curriculum. Of course, one of the first things we needed to do was to hire a program director with the hope that we would get approval to begin this program, and we have really hit a home run, Dr. Joe Steinbach, who will take all detailed questions, I might say. really is a superstar. I cannot tell you how thankful we are to have someone with his background, his knowledge, and his passion for students understanding how they plug into this industry. How fortunate we are to have him at Roane State. And the program that he is building, as Dr. Reed said, with the help of all of these industries who have come together to be our advisory board and plug in and help us develop this program and advocate for it, is really a whole picture. If you think about nuclear and if you understand it at all, and I'm just rudimentary in my understanding, but it really is a front end and back end. So our students really will learn the entire cycle. So from a nuclear fuel standpoint, the front end of being processing and implementation, monitoring, et cetera, then to the back end of reacquisition and protection and disposal and storage and all those different things, our students will see the full gambit. So no matter which industry is located in Oak Ridge, the greater Oak Ridge area, or which one comes in, our students will have that fundamental understanding anywhere on that spectrum of where they need to be. And so for that and many other reasons, we're really proud that this program is being proposed. Dr. Steinbeck has taken great pains to work to make sure this program will be very hands-on, very, very hands-on. There certainly is important theory that goes behind nuclear fuels and nuclear energy, but we want our students to know what to do, what to put their hands on, how to use the glove boxes, obviously how to make safety an important part of every single step of what they do when they're on the job. And it's another reason that we're so grateful that he is here leading this. And it goes back, Madam Chair, to the very good question that you raised earlier about plugging into needed industry, and that's exactly what this is. I would dare say that the potential growth in this area is on par, and this is saying something, with the demand that we're seeing for our 20 allied health science programs for nurses, EMTs, paramedics. You all know the great demand in all those programs. We are on the precipice of seeing the demand for nuclear technicians equal that, and in some ways potentially even exceed it. I know that's a statement, but I truly believe that's the case. So thank you again for your consideration. We'll be glad to answer any questions.
Thank you, President Whaley. If you can't tell how excited East Tennessee and Roane State is about this program, you've heard it directly from the president. With this time, our team, including our technical experts, are ready to answer any questions to support your conversation.
Commissioner Ullman or Commissioner Morrison, do you have any questions?
I don't have any questions.
Sorry.
I'm sorry, go right ahead. Go.
No, this is Dr. Morrison. I was just saying, I don't have any questions. I'm sorry not to be there in person. I love hearing, because we had a wonderful visit with him when our board was there. What was that, maybe a year and a half ago, 2 years ago? So I'm so excited to hear about the growth in your programs. This one sounds like an excellent and needed addition.
Commissioner Ullman?
I was going to say the same. Well, I was just going to say something similar, but clearly the program aligns with the governor's vision, and there's a great need. Would you even say that the numbers, as far as projected enrollment, could be even conservative somewhat, or did you expect? Because I can tell the excitement. I can hear the excitement in everyone's voice, and it's a lot of great information here. Do you expect maybe to have more enrollees than what you're projecting?
I think they can certainly see extended growth beyond what they're projecting, but they also use the alignment of the growth of the related chemical engineering program as a guide for what's been provided. But I certainly think it's going to boom beyond today's estimates.
Did you say the average salary for this role is $90,000?
It's $90,200 for an associate's level technician coming out.
That's a pretty good deal. You mentioned, one of y'all mentioned articulation with UTK. Are there any other four-year universities that you have relationships with specific to this degree?
Tennessee Tech is starting their nuclear. I'm sorry.
You might stay here for this.
Tennessee Tech, who certainly is a strong partner, given proximity and long history of working together. They are just starting their nuclear engineering program, and so we will certainly be setting up articulation with them, and we will have, I know, already students who have expressed interest in going from our program to theirs.
Excellent, thanks so much. While you're up there, Dr. Whaley, what sort of relationships do you have with the K-12 system in your community?
Very strong throughout our 8-county and 10-county expanded service areas. So this program is something that we think is not only going to be able to fit into our dual enrollment model, but hopefully at some point maybe even our middle college model, which allows high school students to graduate with their associate's degree simultaneously with their high school diploma. In fact, they are technically college graduates a few days before their high school graduates, which we think is pretty cool. So yeah, that is certainly something that we're excited to partner with K-12, as well as things that are not specifically curricular in nature for us, programs like our Lab in a Box, where we put together lab experiments in Rubbermaid containers, align those with the K-12 outcomes and curricula, and then send those out to middle schoolers to let them get early experience and hands-on with things like radiation measurement. And here I am, Dr. Steinbeck, the lawyer is trying to talk nuclear, so you may need to save me in a minute.
Thank you so much. Very much appreciate it. Are there any other questions?
Chairman Scarlett, I just
Yes.
want to, I got two, recognize that one of our new Commissioner Ragsdale's on from East Tennessee, maybe a future petition committee member here as well. So, Ron, if you have any questions or thoughts.
I just want to share that I don't know that you could find a program that has a greater need or better potential than the one that was just presented. And you look at what the Board of Regents and Dr. Whaley have presented. I think this is going to be an absolutely outstanding program for people in East Tennessee, and look forward to endorsing it tomorrow as well.
All right, thank you. And also, President Whaley, I don't believe you mentioned your bow tie. Can you please come up here and tell us what your bow tie is?
I will. Executive Director Gentile, my group is used to be seeing me in a Raider red bow tie, but today I'm in my Oak Ridge nuclear bow tie. I have to look a little closely to see the details of that. But yes, I thought instead of a rabbit's foot, I wore my bow tie. So thank you for that.
Well, thank you so much. Dr. Reed, Ms. Fox, and Dr. Whaley, thank you very much for joining us today. I will go ahead and move to have this program passed. I'll look for a second.
Second.
Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
Commissioner Allman,
Aye.
Commissioner Scarlett,
Aye.
Chairwoman, you have 2 ayes.
Motion carries. Congratulations.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, members of the commission. And I also want to recognize President Whaley and his team for their innovation and meeting the needs of the workforce. So thank you.
Thank you. Next, we will hear from Dr. Tracy Comer, Senior Director of Articulation and Transfer, to provide an overview of the articulation and transfer updates and answer any questions. Dr. Comer, you are recognized.
Thank you, Chairwoman Scarlett. Good morning, Commissioners. I am here to share updates related to articulation and transfer initiatives. I joined the Commission in January of 2023. This was a new position for the agency, and my focus is transfer policies and coordinating outreach efforts with Tennessee higher education institutions and system offices to drive greater overall transfer and articulation throughout the state. So today I will be discussing our transfer programs, recent changes made, and some of the events that we've had over the last year. So starting out, I want to talk about Tennessee Reverse Transfer. This program allows students that transition to a four-year institution prior to receiving their associate's degree the opportunity to obtain a credential while they continue working on their bachelor's degree. This is completed by combining credits from the current four-year institution and their previous community college to determine if they meet the criteria for the degree. Students eligible must be enrolled in a four-year institution. They must have 60 hours combined between the four-year institution and the community college. They have to have at least 15 of those credits from the community college and a 2.0 GPA from the community college. So reverse transfer provides a great opportunity for students to stack credentials, and in the event that life happens and they have to put that bachelor's on hold, they would at least have the associate's degree. So the reverse transfer is a semi-automated system, and it relies on the institutions to submit student information. The program started in spring 2015, and it includes all four-year public and two-year public institutions. There are also 8 THEC institutions that participate in this program as well. In 2023, the reverse transfer system was fully migrated to THEC from the UT system. So previously, the administration of the program was completed through the UT system, and that was fully migrated in January of 2023, and THEC officially launched its first reverse transfer cycle February 20th, 2023. The cycle continues each semester, excluding summer, and during our most recent cycle in the spring of 2024, we awarded 268 associate degrees to students. Communication within this system has greatly increased between THEC and colleges, as well as updating student information with the hope that this will increase associate degrees in the future. So next I want to talk about Chairwoman Scarlett's favorite program, which is our Tennessee Transfer Pathways. So Tennessee Transfer Pathways is a program that focuses on a structured pathway. It includes a structured pathway that is approved by faculty that allows students to seamlessly transfer from a community college to a university. Each pathway consists of 60 hours. 41 of those hours are general education courses, and 19 are their pre-major or area of emphasis courses. Currently, the pathways are reviewed on a 5-year cycle. And although the approved curriculum has been happening every year, the curriculums have become a little difficult based on the number of exceptions, footnote, asterisks, whatever you all want to call them. They have become a little difficult over the years. Therefore, the goal to removing these footnotes began in February of this year with our Arts and Humanities review cycle. I am proud to say that out of the 31 footnotes that we started with this spring, we're down to 11 under Arts and Humanities. Of the 11 footnotes remaining, we are working with those 2 institutions to find an alternative to a footnote. If those 2 institutions, if we cannot find an alternative to the footnote, then those universities will no longer be able to accept those particular pathways. However, I will work with those institutions if they would like to establish an articulation agreement. So we've also approved this year 6 new pathways that are currently on the screen, and they will be reviewed in our next cycle in spring 2025. Also in the spring of 2025, we will review health science TTPs, and this will be the final area that will be on a 5-year rotation. After this cycle in the spring of 2026, then all TTPs will be reviewed on a 3-year cycle. I would also like to thank our partners with TBR and the UT system that I work alongside with as a team. Next, I am going to cover some of the events that we've had in the last year, starting with our transfer convening. Our first ever event happened in September of 2023, and some of you may remember hearing this in previous reports. This was a 1-day event, and it was our kickoff to us building a transfer community across the state. We hosted approximately 100 colleagues in the Tennessee Tower for a day of breakout sessions focused on transfer initiatives, and we had presentations by campus colleagues. Our keynote for this event was Dr. John Gardner, and the feedback from the convening was very positive. During our wrap-up session, several colleagues shared the need for us to meet regionally and collaborate on a regional level. Therefore, we planned our first set of Grand Division meetings that took place spring of this year, and it was in West, Middle, and East Tennessee. These 3 meetings included over 200 colleagues that came together to discuss ways to improve the transfer student experience. The agenda included innovative collaborations, Tennessee transfer pathways, as well as group discussions. We had speakers from UT Martin, TCAT, TCAT Crump, TBR, Tennessee Achieves, and ETSU, who actually shared their innovative transfer initiatives currently happening on their campuses. I want to also recognize the institutions on the screen: University of Memphis Lambeth, Nashville State Community College, and TCAT Morrison, who were our lovely hosts for these 3 events. Our second transfer convening is scheduled this year for October 30th. We will continue to bring colleagues together to focus on transfer initiatives, how they affect transfer students, including general education. Maya Robinson, Dr. Katie Brackett, and I are excited to be working on this convening together. We currently have 75 registrations as of yesterday, and our theme is Advancing Student-Centered Transfer in General Education. We are also planning for Grand Division meetings again in the spring of 2025, so be on the lookout for that. Next, we're going to talk about the transfer community. Coming into this role, it has been important that we build a community of transfer champions that work with our transfer students daily. Therefore, in the fall of 2023, is it back? Okay. Therefore, in fall of 2023, we started a transfer listserv as well as a transfer liaison group. The articulation and transfer listserv is a two-way communication for colleagues to share information across campuses. Currently, there are 172 colleagues on this list. You can also join the list if you would like to scan the QR code that is currently on the screen. We'd love to have you. The liaison group includes one person from each campus that is able to share and disseminate information related to transfer initiatives. The liaison group is open to both public and private institutions in the state. The liaison group played a vital role this year during our latest TTP review cycle by communicating with their campus, and this liaison group has met twice in the spring and will meet once more in the fall. Did you get your scan on the QR code? All right, so next we're going to talk about our Articulation and Transfer Council. We reconstituted the council in the fall of 2023. The council was originally established to fulfill the requirements in statute related to all transfer and articulation initiatives. The council is currently mixed with new and returning members from both four-year institutions, TBR, the UT system, and TECUA as well. Meeting quarterly, the council has met twice in 2024, and at these meetings, they voted on new pathways, and currently they are updating the charter for the council and appointing new colleagues to the sub-councils that are on your screen right now. So the last thing I want to share is some of the future ideas that we have for articulation and transfer. As we move forward, we want our momentum with all things transfer to be considered. So one thing we would like to do is to continue providing resources and best practices to our campuses by hosting webinars with relevant speakers. We also would like to update our current TTP curriculum files. They have not been updated in a few years, so we would like to do that as well. As I previously mentioned, we increased and updated our reverse transfer communication, and the hope there is that we can get more students to opt in to receive their associate's degree. We have more that don't respond than we do for those that do respond. And then we're currently researching a one-stop transfer and articulation solution for students to utilize, and this will help them and better guide them through their transfer journey. And hopefully we can provide this information to make that journey a little bit more easier for them. I want to thank you for your time, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
While your mic is going off, mine is going on for some reason. Commissioner Morrison or Commissioner Allman or Commissioner Ragsdale, do you have any questions for Dr. Comer?
No questions.
No questions.
None for me either. Thanks.
Thank you, Dr. Comer.
Thank you.
So next, we will hear from Dr. Brittany Mosby, Director of HBCU Success, to provide an update on the HBCU Success Advisory Board and answer any questions. Dr. Mosby, you are recognized.
Good morning. I'm going to be playing a little bit of PowerPoint karaoke. So we'll all be surprised what happens. Just want to add, I am from East Tennessee. I think our East Tennessee contingent left, but it's true. Nuclear is big. I glow in the dark. Born and raised in Tennessee. I'm here to talk to you a little bit about some of the updates and changes we're going to make, especially around the advisory board, but also to give you a little bit about what's happening with HBCU Success here at the agency. in what is called a callback in comedy. These are the HBCUs around the state. And to Dr. Bellard Chase's earlier point, our HBCUs actually represent the entire spectrum of type of institution in the state. So Knoxville College is currently authorized by DPSA, and they're operating as an authorized institution with their students offering associate's degrees. We have Fisk, Tennessee State, Lane College, Lemoyne Owen, which are all accredited exempt institutions, to use Dr. Bellard Chase's language. They are all also accredited by SAC-COC. American Baptist College here in Nashville is not an exempt institution. They are currently also authorized, but they are accredited by a national accredited agency that is recognized by the Department of Education, so they are able to receive Title IV funding. And then Meharry, as a graduate institution, operates a little bit differently because they have no undergrad students, but that is the spectrum of HBCUs. And so my role as director is to find a way to create a policy environment that is supportive for this range of institutions and also the range of students that attend them. So from the religious focus, liberal arts focus that is at American Baptist, all the way to public health, rural health, and health caring that happens at Meharry. We see it all at our HBCUs. And so to that end, the statute for HBCU success actually contains two pieces. There is the role that I'm very thankful for, that is my job. But then there's also an extension of THEC, which is the advisory board. And this is the way that we source ideas, policy solutions, guidance, recommendations for how to better engage and interact with the HBCUs. So I came to THEC in January of 2018, and this is something that we've been refining over the years. And so what I'm going to present to you are a few changes that we are hoping to make in the structure of the advisory board. And then at our next quarterly meeting in November, we will have to present to the full commission a slate of appointees who we are hoping will be set to fulfill the mission of the advisory board. So really quickly, this language here is from the statute, the role of the advisory board. If you'll imagine two feedback loops. So the advisory board is made up of the presidents of each of the institutions along with appointed members, and their goal is to be connected to the institutions, but also the community of HBCUs across the state. And so to that end, we are changing the number of appointed members. We had 9. We're going to change that to 4, with one person from each grand division and then one person who will serve as an at-large member. Right now, we are happy to say we have Ashley Northington, who formerly served as the chair. She has agreed to come back on to serve as chair. She will be our Middle Tennessee representative. Officer Shelley Clemens is also going to return for a second term. We have really enjoyed her or appreciated her participation as a member of the Knoxville Police Department. She has added an incredibly unique and welcome perspective on pathways, higher education, and just expanding what we mean by sort of pipeline into industries. Police departments are also an industry. And then for our at-large member, we're going to have Dr. Andre Churchwell, who is currently a special advisor to the Vanderbilt Chancellor for community engagement. He has agreed to be our at-large member, and he will return for a second term on the board, which means we're currently looking out, searching for a West Tennessee representative, and we've got a couple of feelers out. And so we will present the bios for all 4 candidates that, like I said, will be appointed at the November meeting. Another change that we've made in this feedback loop with the board is we have centered the presidents as voting members so that we can really focus our conversation on what they're saying is happening on their campuses. So previously, our presidents, they were ex officio members, but they were non-voting members. We did that with an eye towards, them fitting into their schedule when they could, but we want to turn that on their head. we want the meeting itself to have a value add, and we think that their presence is needed for that. So we're going to flip that. And we're going to count presidents towards the quorum, hopefully, so in tandem, creating agendas that are more tailored to their needs and what they're seeing, but also listening to them to hear what sorts of solutions we can source from the ground up. And so with the feedback then, our advisory board will meet at least twice a year. I, as director, will work with that advisory board and then also with the institutions directly. So also maintaining contact with administration on campus through their senior leadership, provost, student affairs, and so on. Take that and then present at regular intervals back to the commission. And so hopefully, what we've created here is an efficient cycle where we can really focus on the needs of our HBCUs, but also strategically matching them with the strengths within the agency. So really trying to put the pieces together in a more organized and effective manner. Let's see, I don't know if there's more I want to talk about here. And so these are the statutory goals as listed for the advisory board. And when we built out our strategic plan for both HBCU success at the agency and also for the advisory board, these are the goals that we had in mind. And so moving forward, these are the things that we are looking to operationalize, metricize, and make achievable as our board starts to tackle the problems of the HBCU community and sector. I'm not going to read through them for you, but I think... okay, one more slide. Alrighty. And this is some of the responsibilities or expectations that we have for our board members. Again, recognizing that this is an advisory body set to provide guidance and insight. We are not a governing body. We don't have any sort of binding decisions that we make for the campuses, but rather an opt-in environment. And again, we're hoping that institutions will see the benefit by coming to play in our sandbox with the restructuring of this board. So I believe that's all the slides. Yes, that's all the slides that I have, but I am happy to talk a little bit more about this restructuring, but then also just sort of what we're doing with HBCU success.
Thank you so much, Dr. Mosby. Are there any questions from the phone? I'm going to take silence as a no. I do have a question. When you talk about this being the goals, is this something with the presidents of all the institutions you just shared earlier, the HBCUs? Are they equally as interested in these goals? I think I say that because financial sustainability is a bit of a concern, certainly with one of our flagship universities.
Yes.
But we also have another. Harry just got $175 million from Bloomberg. So.
Yes.
There's, I'm just kind of curious to know how much do they want to share, or how are they engaging, or how do you want them to engage?
That's a great question. So I'd like to start with a little bit of a policy history lesson. So the legislation that we have here in Tennessee that creates this role in advisory board is actually a state analog of a federal executive order for the White House initiative on HBCUs. So everything that happens at the federal level is essentially what we are trying to replicate and recreate in the state. So to that end, a lot of these statutory goals are things that were identified at the federal level that we have sort of ported into our state statute. So to the extent that there's only one public HBCU, the rest are private, it is a fine line that we tote, especially with financial viability. To that end, I think I can confidently say that outside of just HBCU success, THEC staff are working full-time as well to help our flagship HBCU stay above and afloat. So I think what these goals look like will look a little bit different from institution to institution. So you mentioned Meharry, that's private, and Meharry has actually been a great model for a school that goes after private dollars to support their missions, and I would love to have that serve as an illustrative example for our other institutions as well. But to make a long answer short, it will look a little bit different from institution to institution, and recognizing again that our authority carrot stick is a little bit different for the private side. Sure.
Great, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Yeah,
I have
thank
no other
you.
questions.
Thank you.
I just want to add to that, Dr. Mosby and I and Brett Gibson earlier this spring were able to travel to all of the HBCUs except for Knoxville College.
Right.
I know you've been there, I have not been there yet, and meeting with their presidents, and a lot of these boxes here rung true for each and one of them. So I see our role in helping connect them to whatever public-private investments might be available, but also recognizing the capacity building that we do for our public institutions. What can we help them, whether it's campus security, summer investments in HBCU bridge programs, et cetera. So those were really
Yes.
good visits, well-timed.
Yes. If I can add a little bit to that, my goal is to be able to be a translator of services. So those things, not just at THEC, but other state agencies that might be available and useful. So one thing that I'm currently working with ECD, they've got a lot of broadband money that's come down from the feds, and they're trying to hand that out as quickly as possible. And since our HBCUs are largely located in the minority communities they're trying to serve, trying to connect ECD with HBCUs and increasing the HBCU capacity to apply for those grants. So it is ad hoc in that way, but we're also looking at, we've done data dives for Lane. We were able to do analysis to help them do some predictive analytics. We've done some we trying to include our HBCUs with the transfer conversations. And I'm looking to implement something like a secret shopper, but a policy audit. So, having students go through the processes at the institutions and identifying where holes and things like that are, because I think the help that we have, the assistance that we can provide to HBCUs doesn't just have to be programmatic. It can also be walking alongside them as they think through things at the institutional level.
Thank you so much, Dr. Mosby. I appreciate it. Next up, our final agenda item, which is under other business. I'd like to call Dr. Julie Roberts, Chief Academic Officer, to provide an update on program termination. Dr. Roberts, you're recognized.
Thank you so much. We wanted to provide an update. You had asked us to look at termination and reasons for terminations for academic programs. Definitely want to thank Dr. Katie Brackett and Brooke Vo from our academic affairs team who pulled this all together. So we looked at from August 23 to August 24, any programs that had been terminated, and characterized them in several categories, being administrative and process errors, licensure changes, resource and staffing issues, market demand, enrollment concerns, program alignment and development, and then obviously another for all of the other things. So just a quick overview. During that time period, we had 67 academic programs that were terminated. The vast majority, 66% of them, were due to enrollment concerns. And so just really wanted to give that high level explanation. I do have a form that I pass out here in the room, but if there's any other questions, happy to entertain them. I had enough for the four of you. I thought you might want to share them at a dinner party.
Do you happen to know, thank you for this, do you happen to know how long these programs had been operating under duress, for lack of a better term?
Yeah, I think Katie pulled this together, so I think it was a broad brush. We did have a couple that were stood up and lost. There was one certificate in particular that had industry support, had a community partner that then ended up not being able to fulfill the obligation. So we see some of those like that. Some had just the cycle of need. The student interest had just kind of petered out.
Great, thank you so much. I don't believe those on the phone have received this, so we'll make sure it gets
Yeah, I'm
emailed.
happy to send it out. Yeah.
Okay. So if y'all have any questions, you certainly can reach out to Dr. Roberts. With this concludes our agenda. I do want to say, extend Dr. Deaton, I don't think he's in here anymore, extend a thanks to Dr. Deaton and TBR for allowing us to host our committee meeting here this morning and certainly this afternoon, and also our board meeting here tomorrow. So with that, are there any other questions or comments from the commissioners on the phone? Okay, hearing nothing, this concludes our agenda, and we have no further business. We're adjourned.